Welcome back to another explainer. Today, we're diving into a genuinely wild concept. How exactly do we teach a rock infused with lightning, a computer, to actually read? We're going to break down the various approaches for analyzing texts, tracing the massive leap from early, super rigid logic systems right up to the fluid, high-dimensional math that drives modern AI.
Here's the roadmap for today. We're looking at semantic analysis basics, classical meaning representations, and how those logical approaches compare. Then, we'll shift into the statistical era with vector space models, advanced topic modeling, and finally, dense contextual embeddings. Let's get right into it.
Section 1. Semantic Analysis Basics. So before machines had the computing power to crunch big data, early computer scientists had to figure out how to pull context-independent meaning out of just a single sentence. The go-to method back then was syntax-directed translation. This relies heavily on the principle of compositionality, sometimes called Frege's principle. It's actually pretty straightforward. It just means the meaning of a complex expression is built entirely from its individual parts and the grammatical rules linking them. Think of it like linguistic Legos. As a parser builds out the structure of a sentence, it dynamically snaps these semantic pieces together, turning individual words into a fully structured representation.
Moving to Section 2, Classical Meaning Representations. Once you parse the syntax, how do you actually store that meaning so a computer can use it? Well, early NLP pioneers basically tried four main logical approaches to force human language into a computer's rigid brain. We've got first-order logic, semantic networks, conceptual dependency, and frame semantics. Each one tackled this massive puzzle in a slightly different way. Let's look closer at a few of them.
First up is first-order logic, or FOL. This is definitely the most mathematically rigorous approach. It uses objects, properties, relations, and logical quantifiers. Things like the universal for all or the existential there exists. So if you have a sentence like every student reads a book, FOL translates that into a strict formula. For all x, if x is a student, then there exists a y such that y is a book and x reads y. It gives you an incredibly strong mathematical foundation for making deductions. But as you can probably guess, trying to cram poetry, sarcasm, or just everyday slang into strict for all x logic, that gets ridiculously messy incredibly fast. Then we see this really fascinating shift away from pure math toward universal human concepts. This is conceptual dependency, or CD theory. CD breaks sentences down into domain-independent semantic primitives. For example, physical actions get boiled down into primitives like A-trans for transferring possession, or P-trans for physical movement. The real beauty here is normalization. Take the sentences, John gave Mary a book, and Mary received a book from John. Totally different syntax, right? But CD maps them both to the exact same underlying conceptual structure.
Next, there is frame semantics, created by Charles Fillmore. This approach basically says you can't understand a word without its broader context, which he called a frame. Imagine a commercial transaction frame. It has predefined slots or frame elements for the buyer, the seller, the goods, and the money. Whether you use the word buy, sell, pay, or spend, you're evoking that exact same frame and filling in those specific slots. It is a super intuitive way to represent real-world events.
Section 3. Comparing Logical Approaches.
When we put these classical models side by side, it's a classic tug-of-war. First-order logic has massive expressive power. It handles complex negations and conditionals like a champ, but its computational tractability is terrible. In fact, general inference in FOL is mathematically undecidable, which creates a huge bottleneck if you try to scale it up. Frame semantics, on the other hand, trades away some of that strict logical flexibility to gain high computational tractability. Its structured slot filling makes processing incredibly efficient for practical, real-world applications.
On to Section 4, Vector Space and Bag of Words. Eventually, the field hit a wall. Writing manual logic rules for every single word and context just couldn't scale to handle the entire internet. We needed a totally new approach. As our source material perfectly sums it up, text mining algorithms cannot process raw text strings directly. The text must be translated into structured mathematical representations. This was the big pivot. We moved from the classical logic era to the modern statistical era. Bottom line, machines don't read words, they read numbers.
To make that mathematical translation happen, unstructured text is put through a rigorous assembly line. We start with text collection and NLP preprocessing, like tokenizing the text and cleaning out the noise. Then we run information extraction to find entities, followed by semantic parsing to label their roles. After that is ontological grounding, which is absolutely crucial.
This is where synonyms, like aspirin and acetylsalicylic acid, are mapped to one single semantic concept in a structured knowledge graph. Only after all that can we get to real knowledge discovery, turning a chaotic mess of text into clean, actionable data.
To process text at an absolute massive scale, early text mining leaned on the vector space model, or the bag of words approach. This takes a document and represents it as a vector in a huge, high-dimensional space. Every single unique word in your entire vocabulary gets its own dimension, and its value, usually determined by a weight like TF-IDF or term frequency inverse document frequency. It works mathematically, but there's a glaring flaw here. It completely ignores word order and semantics. Because every word gets its own unique dimension, synonyms like dog and canine map to completely unrelated vectors. To the computer, they have absolutely zero relationship.
That takes us to Section 5, Advanced Topic Modeling. Data scientists had to fix that synonym problem, so they developed advanced mathematical techniques to reduce those dimensions and uncover hidden relationships. Enter latent semantic analysis, or LSA. While the basic vector space model builds rigid orthogonal vectors for every single word, LSA applies a technique called singular value decomposition to the data. This shrinks the dimensionality way down. It acts kind of like a mathematical matchmaker, plotting terms and documents into a shared, low-dimensional, latent semantic space. And just like that, words appearing in similar contexts start aligning. So our dog and canine are finally hanging out right next to each other in this new space.
Taking that a step further, we get topic modeling, specifically latent Dirichlet allocation, or LDA. LDA is what we call a generative probabilistic model. It's not just counting words anymore. It assumes every document is a probability distribution, a mixture of different topics, and that those topics are just mixtures of words. It's a remarkably powerful way for machines to automatically group and cluster the themes of a massive text corpus. In fact, this is exactly how early search engines and recommendation systems started figuring out what an article is actually about.
Finally, Section 6, Dense Contextual Embeddings. This is where we hit the state of the art. Modern deep learning models, think WordDivec, and especially transformer models like BERT, have totally ditched the old bag of words approach. Instead, they map words, or even entire sentences, into dense, continuous, low-dimensional vectors, usually somewhere between 300 and 768 dimensions. And the real game changer? These embeddings are context-dependent. A word that means two different things in two different sentences will map to completely different vector spaces. It solves word sense disambiguation beautifully. It even captures these deep mathematical relationships that honestly feel like magic. Like, if you take the vector for king, subtract the vector for man, and add woman, you land incredibly close to the vector for queen. How cool is that? So we've gone all the way from the strict, rigid rules of first-order logic to the incredibly fluid, high-dimensional math of dense contextual embeddings. It's an amazing evolution of various approaches to analyzing text. But looking ahead, think about this: pragmatic ambiguity. When someone asks, "Can you pass the salt?" they aren't asking about your physical ability to lift a shaker. It's a polite request. Understanding that requires grasping human social norms. As these models keep shifting from logic to math, how do you think contextual embeddings will evolve next to capture those deep, unspoken layers of human communication? It's a huge question. Thanks for tuning into this explainer, and keep wondering how exactly the machines are learning to read.